Alrighty, folks, we're now 9-2 in our last 11 extra daily picks on my premium page. We had Winthrop -2.5 yesterday in college basketball, and they put up 88 points against Longwood. It's also going to put us at 78% in our last 18 extra daily picks in that same package. And the good news is I've got another extra daily pick going off here today for Saturday. That play's already posted and ready for access right now in the post section. Of course, if you sign up for that membership, you're going to get access to that package every single day for the next 30 days. And as an added bonus, you're also going to get access to my daily best play every single day during that time frame, absolutely free. It's going to be included with your membership. Of course, I got to give a shout out to all of you Gold Club members out there because we cashed in on 6 premium selections yesterday on my premium page. We had Illinois in college basketball, St. Louis in the NHL, Raptors -4.5 in the NBA, Sacramento Kings -4.5. We hit on a 2-teamer in the NHL as well. And of course, once again, we cashed in on Winthrop -2.5. And the only way you could have access to all those winning tickets is to join my full access, all-inclusive Gold Club membership. Now, Gold Club members get access to every single premium selection of mine, every single package, every single day for the next 30 days. And before we go ahead and move on, just want to take a quick time out and welcome you to my free pick video here today for Saturday, March 8th, 2025. Happy Saturday to you. Hopefully you had a great start to the weekend. And if you're joining me for the first time here today, my name is Brock Page. I've been dishing out free sports picks on YouTube since 2016. Of course, if you're on the fence about signing up for a membership, maybe a little bit skeptical, I certainly don't blame you there. But I do have plenty of free content on my premium page as well. That includes my current overall win-loss record in all of my packages for my entire career on Patreon. You can find that for free right now in the post section. You don't have to buy anything to access my record. I currently have over 2,145 members who are signed up and active on my premium page right now. With that, folks, let's go ahead and dive into some free content. Going to start off with some smaller school action, not on our big screen behind me, but we're going to take a look at the Radford High Point matchup. That'll be a 12 o'clock Eastern tip. High Point is -6. Total's 139.5. High Point's 27-5 on the year, 7-3 away from their home court. Radford on the other side, 20-12 themselves, just 7-9 away from their home court though. The Highlanders are allowing 15 free throws a game. Opponents are shooting over 75% from the foul line against them. And they're facing a High Point squad who's in the top 25 in the nation in free throws made, 8th in the country in shooting from the field. Demarion Williams is 40% from three-land. Keza Gifa is averaging over 14.5 points a game himself, 85% from the stripe. Now, High Point has not lost a basketball game in well over a month. They also saw overs recently against the likes of UNC Asheville, Radford, and Presbyterian. Meanwhile, Radford games went 5-4 to the over in their last 9. I like High Point -6 over 139.5. Next matchup, little ACC action. NC State taking on Miami, 12 o'clock Eastern tip-off. NC State's -1 away from home. Total's 149.5. Now, the Wolfpack's just 12-18 on the year, but even more problematic, they're 0-10 as the road team. And more recently, NC State took the loss in 7 out of their last 10. Opponents are making 77% of their free throws against them. Meanwhile, Miami on the other side, they are a top 40 free throw shooting team themselves, averaging nearly 75 points a game on offense. Matthew Cleveland averages 17 points a game, 51% from the field. And A.J. Staten McCray, he's shooting 82% from the foul line. Miami saw overs in their last 4 straight, 7-3 to the over in their last 10. NC State saw overs recently versus Georgia Tech, Wake Forest, and UNC. Cannot trust NC State on the road. I like Miami +1 over 149.5. Next matchup, SEC, Vanderbilt, Georgia, 12 o'clock East. Georgia's minus 5.5, totals 150. The Bulldogs are 19-11 on the year, 14-3 at home. Meanwhile, Vanderbilt's 20-10 themselves, but just 3-6 on the road. Of course, more recently, the Commodores dropped 4 out of their last 7. Vandy's having some problems getting shots off. They're currently 337th in offensive blocks per game, getting a considerable amount of their shots blocked. And that's bad. It's bad news for them because Georgia is 10th in the nation in blocks per contest on defense. The Bulldogs are allowing only 69 points a game, 40% shooting from the field. Georgia saw unders recently versus South Carolina, Texas A&M, and Alabama. I like Georgia minus 5.5, under 150. All right, next matchup, some more SEC action. Kentucky, Missouri, 12 o'clock East. Mizzou's minus 5, totals 169. Now, Missouri's 21-9 on the year, 18-1 as the home team. Kentucky 20-10 themselves, just 3-6 on the road. Of course, more recently, the Wildcats failed to cover in 3 out of their last 4, allowing 78 points a game on defense this year. And no real surprise, Kentucky's 301st in field goals allowed. And that's certainly great news for Tiger fans because these guys are 7th in the country in points per game. They're averaging just about 85 points per contest. 2nd in the country in free throws made. Tamar Bates averages 13 points a game, 93% from the foul line. And Caleb Grill, he's averaging 14 points a game himself, 42% from long range. Now, Tiger games went 8-2 to the over in their last 10. Kentucky 60% to the over in their last 10 themselves. I like Missouri minus 5, over 169. All right, next contest, some Big East action. Georgetown, DePaul, 2 o'clock East. DePaul's the 1-point favorite. Totals 145. The Blue Demons are just 12-18 on the year. Georgetown 17-13. The Hoyas are allowing only 68 points a game on defense, 42% from the field. And they're facing a DePaul team who lost 8 out of their last 10, having all kinds of problems getting to the foul line. DePaul is currently 327th in free throws made per game. Their contest went 6-3 to the under in their last 9. Georgetown saw unders recently versus Marquette, Seton Hall, and St. John's. I like Georgetown plus 1, under 145. All right, next contest, St. Bonaventure taking on Davidson. That'll be a 2 o'clock Eastern tip. Davidson's minus 2, totals 135.5. Now, Davidson 16-14 on the year. St. Bonaventure 20-10. More recently, the Bonnies won 3 out of their last 4. One of the tougher teams in the A-10 to score points against. The Bonnies are giving up only 64 points a game, 11th in free throws allowed. And on the offensive end, St. Bonaventure has a handful of guys who average double digits. LeJay Jones, he's averaging 11 points per contest, 42% from beyond the arc. And Mel Council is scoring 14.5 points a game himself, 84% from the foul line. Of course, they're facing a Davidson squad who lost their last 3 straight, 1 and 5 straight up in their last 6. The Wildcats are currently 310th in defensive turnovers. Definitely having a tough time defending the deep ball. Davidson games went 4-2 to the over in their last 6. St. Bonaventure saw overs recently versus UMass, St. Joe's, and Duquesne. I like St. Bonaventure plus 2, over 135.5. All right, next matchup, Siena taking on Manhattan. That'll be a 2 o'clock Eastern tip. Manhattan is minus 2, totals 149. The Jaspers are 16-12 on the year, 8-5 at home. Siena just 14-16 themselves, 4-9 on the road. The Saints have struggled getting to the rim. They're 300th in field goals made per game. That is it. And they're taking on a Manhattan squad who's on a 3-game winning streak themselves. 7-3 straight up in their last 10. Meanwhile, on the offensive end, Manhattan's averaging nearly 77 points a game. Now, total-wise, oddly enough, the Jaspers saw unders in 3 out of their last 5. Siena with unders recently versus Fairfield and Ryder. I like Manhattan -2, under 149. All right, next game, little SEC action. Alabama-Auburn, 2:30 p.m. East. Auburn's -7, totals 178.5. The Tigers are 27-3, 13-1 at home. Alabama 23-7 now, losers of 4 out of their last 6. When it comes to covering the number, the Tide failed to cover recently versus Florida, Missouri, and this very Auburn team. They actually gave up 94 points in that outright loss. And listen, defensive play has certainly been a problem for Alabama. They're allowing 81 points per contest this year, bottom 25 in field goals allowed. And that's certainly good news for Tiger fans because they're 10th in the nation in field goals made per game. They're also the 6th highest point-producing school in the country, 85 points a game they're averaging. Janai Brooms scoring 18 points a game, 50% from the field. And Denver Jones is averaging double-digit points a game himself, 43% from three-land, 92% from the stripe. Auburn games went 8-2 to the over in their last 10. Bama contest went 60% to the over in their last 10 themselves. I like Auburn -7, over 178.5. Next matchup, UTEP, Louisiana Tech, 3 o'clock Eastern tip. La Tech's -4, totals 142. Now, Louisiana Tech's 19-11 on the year, 10-4 straight up at home. UTEP 17-13 themselves, just 4-7 on the road. Of course, more recently, the Miners lost their last 6 straight. Having a tough time grabbing rebounds. UTEP's currently 336th in offensive boards per game. They're taking on a Louisiana Tech team who rebounds well on defense themselves. They're actually holding opposing schools to just 68 points a game. Now, the Bulldogs saw unders in 5 out of their last 9. UTEP with unders recently versus Jacksonville State, Florida International, and New Mexico State. I like Louisiana Tech -4, under 142. Next game, Cincinnati, Oklahoma State, 3 o'clock East. Cincy's -2, totals 141.5. The Bearcats are 17-13 on the year. OSU 14-16. Of course, more recently, the Cowboys dropped 5 out of their last 7. They're allowing 76.5 points a game. When it comes to guarding the long ball, their opponents are making nearly double-digit three-pointers a game against them. They're facing a Cincy team who's covered in 8 out of their last 9. Very tough team to score points against. The Bearcats are giving up only 64 points a game. 9th in free throw attempts allowed. They rarely get into foul trouble. Now, oddly enough, Cincy games went 6-3 to the over in their last 9. OSU 5-4 to the over in their last 9 themselves. I like Cincinnati -2, over 141.5. All right, next game. This should be a good one. If you can access this game, may want to keep an eye on it. Should be a fun one to watch. It's not on our big screen, so I'm assuming it'll be on ESPN+. I'm talking about Belmont taking on Drake. That'll be a 3:30 Eastern tip-off in the Enterprise Center. It's actually 1 versus 4 in the Missouri Valley Conference. Drake's -6, totals 134.5. The Bulldogs are 28-3 on the year, 9-1 away from their home court. Of course, more recently, Drake's on a 5-game winning streak, 9-1 straight up in their last 10. Of course, the Bulldogs shoot it well from 3-land, 22nd in the nation in shooting from the field. Bennett Sturts averages over 18.5 points a game, 50% from the field. And Mitch Muscari, he's averaging double-digit points a night himself, 42% from downtown. They're facing a Belmont team who failed to cover recently versus Indiana State, Northern Iowa, and Valparaiso. When it comes to defensive play, the Bruins are allowing nearly 78 points a game. They're giving up nearly double-digit 3 balls per contest as well. The Bruins saw overs recently versus Northern Iowa, Valparaiso, and Evansville. Meanwhile, Drake saw overs in 5 out of their last 9, throwing out that Southern Illinois contest. I like Drake -6, over 134.5. Next game, New Mexico State, Sam Houston, 3:30 p.m. East. Sam Houston State's -2.5, totals 139. Now, Sam Houston's just 12-18 on the year, 29% against the point spread, one of the worst covering schools in the country. Meanwhile, New Mexico State, 17-13 themselves, 8-5 on the road. Of course, more recently, the Aggies got the W in 5 out of their last 6. Covered the point spread in all of those games besides one. The Aggies are holding their competition to just 65 points a game, 3rd in the country in guarding the 3-ball. Meanwhile, New Mexico State limits opposing shooters to just 28% from outside the arc. They're taking on a Sam Houston squad who lost 6 out of their last 10. Losses against the likes of Louisiana Tech, Middle Tennessee, and Florida International. When it comes to defensive play, the Bearcats give up over 76 points a game. They're actually 332nd in 3 balls allowed. Now, oddly enough, Sam Houston games went 60% to the under in their last 10. New Mexico State 9-1 to the under in their last 10 themselves. Like New Mexico State, +2.5, under 139. Next contest, SMU taking on Florida State, 4 o'clock East. SMU's -3, totals 155. The Mustangs are 22-8 on the year, 700 win percentage on the road. And more recently, SMU got the W in 7 out of their last 10. They're a tough team to shoot against. The Mustangs are limiting opposing teams to just 41% from the field. They're facing a Florida State team who lost their last 4 straight themselves, having a tough time shooting the long ball. The Noles are averaging only 6 made 3-pointers a game. Of course, both programs saw unders in 6 out of their last 10 respectively. Plenty of unders between these two programs. I like SMU -3, under 155. All right, next contest, Wofford taking on East Tennessee State. That'll be a 6 o'clock Eastern tip-off in the Harris-Cherokee Center in Asheville. It's a 3-versus-6 matchup in the Southern Conference, the SoCon. East Tennessee State's -2, totals 137. The Bucs are 19-12 on the year, but just 6-9 away from home. The Buccaneers are making just 66% of their free throws, 333rd in that particular category. And they're facing a Wofford team who's been tough to score points against themselves. They're giving up only 69 points a game, 27th in defensive boards. Now, Wofford saw unders recently against VMI, Samford, and Mercer. Meanwhile, Buccaneer games went 5-4 to the under in their last 9 themselves. Throwing out that Citadel matchup, I like Wofford +2, under 137. All right, next matchup, Hampton taking on Northeastern. That'll be a 6 o'clock Eastern tip-off. That'll be in the Care First Arena in Washington, D.C. Hampton's -1, totals 137.5. This is a 7-versus-10 matchup in the Colonial Athletic Association. Hampton's 16-15 on the year, but just 4-9 away from campus. Meanwhile, Northeastern 17-14 themselves, winners of 5 out of their last 8. The Huskies are led by Rashad King, who averages 18 points a game, 85% from the stripe. And Harold Woods, he's averaging a dozen points a game himself. They're squaring off against a Hampton school who lost their last 2 straight, struggling a bit with fouls on defense. The Pirates are currently 303rd in free throws allowed per game. Now, Hampton saw overs recently versus Towson, UNC Wilmington, and this very Northeastern team. That game actually saw 159 total points. Meanwhile, Northeastern saw overs recently with Monmouth, Hofstra, and Hampton twice. I like Northeastern +1, over 137.5. All right, next matchup, UMass Lowell taking on Maine. That'll be a 6 o'clock Eastern tip-off. That's another game not on our big screen. But Maine is -2, totals 144. Maine 17-13 on the year, 9-3 at home. UMass Lowell 17-14, just 3-10 on the road. Of course, more recently, the Riverhawks dropped 7 out of their last 10. They're allowing nearly 75 points a game. They're also 332nd in field goals given up per contest. They're facing a main squad on the other side who shoots it well from the field and three land. AJ Lopez shoots 42% from downtown, 91% from the stripe. The senior from Queens is also scoring over 14.5 points a game. And Chris Praying Mantis, he's knocking down 43% of his three-pointers. The Black Bears saw overs in 5 out of their last 6. MIZZOU saw overs recently against Vermont, UMBC, and New Hampshire. I like Maine -2 over 144. All right, next matchup, George Mason taking on Richmond. That'll be a 6 o'clock Eastern tip. George Mason's -5, totals 126. The Patriots are 23-7 on the year. Richmond just 10-20. The Spiders are also on a 4-game skid, 3-7 straight up in their last 10. When it comes to offensive production, the Spiders score only 67 points a game, bottom 10 in field goals. And that's certainly bad news for them because George Mason is one of the toughest defensive teams. Thought I was going to sneeze. George Mason, they're one of the toughest defensive teams in the entire nation. They're allowing just 63 points a game, 37% from the field. Patriot contest went 60% to the under in their last 10. Richmond 7-3 to the under in their last 10 themselves. I like George Mason -5, under 126. All right, next game, Alabama State taking on Grambling, 6:30 p.m. East. Alabama State's -1, totals 134. Now, the Hornets are playing just .500 basketball this year, 5-10 straight up on the road. And when it comes to shooting from the field, the Hornets are making just 41% of their field goals. They're in the bottom 20 in the country in that category. And they're taking on a Grambling squad who's definitely tough to score points against. The Tigers give up only 68 points a game, just 6 3 balls per contest they're allowing. Now, Grambling games went 60% to the under in their last 10. Alabama State went 8-2 to the under in their last 10 themselves. I like Grambling +1, under 134. Next contest, Sacramento State, Weber State, 7:30 Eastern tip in the Idaho Central Arena. 9 versus 10 in the Big Sky Conference. Weber State's -3, totals 132.5. Now, the Wildcats are just 11-21, but Sacramento State, they're just 7-24. The Hornets are also just 12-13 away from their own court. They have not won many games over the past month or so. Out of Sacramento State's last 10 contests, they actually took the loss in all of those games except for one. When it comes to guarding the three ball, they're actually 304th in three-pointers allowed per game. They're facing a Weber State team who covered in their last 4 straight, 7-2 against the spread in their last 9. Blaze Threat scores 21 points per contest, 52% from the field. And Vil Vartanen, he's making nearly 40% of his three-pointers. Weber State saw overs recently with Idaho, Montana State, and this very Sacramento State team. That head-to-head contest saw 157 total points. Now, the Hornets on the other side saw overs in 5 out of their last 9. I like Weber State -3, over 132.5. Next contest, little SEC action, Red River Shootout. Does that only apply to football? Well, sorry, Red River Rivalry now. Got to be, they changed the name of it, but does that still apply in basketball? I don't know, but it's going to be Oklahoma taking on Texas, 8 o'clock East. Texas is -5, totals 154.5. The Longhorns are 17-13 on the year, 11-6 as the home team. Oklahoma 18-12 themselves, 1-7 on the road. More recently, the Sooners dropped 7 out of their last 9, allowing only 75. They're allowing not only it's significant. They're allowing 75 points a game on defense. When it comes to foul trouble, the Sooners are currently 301st in free throws allowed per game. They're taking on a Texas team who averages nearly 80 points a game themselves. Definitely shoots it well from long range. Trey Johnson scores over 20.5 points a night, 40% from downtown. And Jordan Pope gets double-digit points a game himself, 85% from the stripe. The Longhorns saw overs in their last 9 straight. Sooner games went 6-3 to the over in their last 9 themselves. I like Texas -5, over 154.5. Next game, Furman, Sanford, 8:30 Eastern tip. Once again, that's going to be in the Harrah's Cherokee in Asheville. 4 versus 5 matchup in the SoCon. Sanford's -2, totals 156. Sanford's 22-9 on the year. Furman 23-8. The Paladins are also 9-5 away from their own building, winners of their last 4 straight. The Paladins are splashing nearly 11 3 balls a game, 18th in the country in assists per contest. They really do a nice job moving the ball around. That gets them, those open looks. PJ Smith scores 17 points a game, 41% from outside the perimeter. And Nick Anderson scores 14 points a game himself, 89% from the line. They're taking on a Sanford team who gives up 75 points a game themselves, 329th in free throws allowed. Sanford saw their last 3 contests get over the total. Furman 6-3 to the over in their last 9. I like Furman +2, over 156. Next contest, Eastern Washington taking on Northern Arizona. 10 o'clock Eastern start in the Idaho Central Arena. 6 versus 8 in the Big Sky Conference. Northern Arizona's -3, totals 144.5. NAU 17-14 on the year. Eastern Washington just 10-21. Now, the Eagles dropped 14 of 16 away from their own floor, losers of their last 5 straight. When it comes to covering the point spread, well, Eastern Washington failed to cover in 8 out of their last 10. The Eagles are giving up 76 points a game on defense, 331st in defensive field goal percentage. And they're taking on an NAU squad who averages 76.5 points a game themselves. They don't turn the ball over much. Trent McLaughlin averages 22 points a game for the Lumberjacks. That's second best in all of college basketball. Meanwhile, Carson Tout, he's averaging 12.4 boards a game. That's best in Division I. NAU contest went 7-3 to the over in their last 10. Eastern Washington saw overs recently versus Montana, Northern Colorado, and this very NAU team. That head-to-head gathering saw 154 total points. I like Northern Arizona -3, over 144.5. And with that, we're going to jump into our next and final breakdown for the video. Should be a good one. Houston Baylor, 10 o'clock Eastern tip. Houston's -4 away from home, totals 131. The Cougs are 26-4 on the year, perfect on the road. They're 9-0 away from the Fertitta Center. Meanwhile, Baylor, 18-12 themselves, covers in just 31% of their games. Of course, more recently, the Bears failed to cover in their last 7 straight. Having some problems getting shots off. Baylor's currently 330th in blocked shots per game on offense. And they're taking on a Houston squad who's the toughest program in the country to score points against. The Cougars are allowing only 58 points a game, first in field goals allowed. They're actually limiting opposing schools to just 19 made field goals a game. Now, both teams saw unders in 4 out of their last 6, respectively. I like Houston -4, under 131. And with that, we're going to jump into some NBA action. Nets, Hornets, 6 o'clock East. Brooklyn's 4.5 away from home, totals 213. Now, the Nets are 20 games below 500, just 12-20 away from home. I got to be honest, I don't like Brooklyn laying any type of points in any particular spot, especially on the road. And in this case, they're laying multiple baskets. Now, more recently, Brooklyn's on a 6-game skid, averaging only 105 points a game for the entire year. And no real surprise, the Nets are currently dead last in field goals made per game. Meanwhile, the Hornets on the other side, they do challenge you a bit on defense. They've actually been tough to shoot the basketball against. Charlotte's currently 10th in field goals allowed, 6th in guarding the deep ball. 4 out of Charlotte's last 5 did stay under the total. Brooklyn games went 60% to the under in their last 10. I like Charlotte plus 4.5, under 213. Next contest, Pelicans Rockets, 7 o'clock East. Houston's -9, totals 229.5. Now, Houston did drop 3 out of their last 4. This is kind of a big number for a team who doesn't shoot well. Houston not overly prolific on offense. So for those guys to be laying double digits in any type of spot, it's not going to be a good number for you. Like I said, Houston, not great shooters of the basketball, averaging only a dozen 3 balls a game, bottom 5 in field goal percentage. And they're facing a Pelicans team who got the outright W in 5 out of their last 9. They're 5th in the league in steals, 9th in blocks. They also tend to stay out of foul trouble on defense. They're in the top 10 in fewest free throws allowed per game. Now, the Pelicans saw unders in 5 out of their last 9, throwing out that Laker contest. Meanwhile, Houston games went 6-3 to the under in their last 9 themselves. I like the Pelicans plus 9, under 229.5. Next matchup, Wizards Raptors, 7:30 Eastern tip. Toronto's -4.5, totals 223. The Raptors are covering in over 60% of their games this year. Washington just 12-49 overall, 5-23 on the road. Of course, more recently, Washington dropped 7 out of their last 10. They've been abysmal on defense. The Wizards allow 121 points a game, dead last in defensive boards. And they're taking on a Toronto team who's on a 3-game winning streak themselves, 5-2 against the spread in their last 7. RJ Barrett averages over 21.5 points per contest, 6 rebounds, 5 assists. And Scotty Barnes is scoring over 19.5 points a night himself, 7 boards, 6 assists for Barnes. Toronto games went 5-4 to the over in their last 9. Washington saw overs recently versus the Jazz, Blazers, and Pacers. I like Toronto -4.5, over 223. Next matchup, Magic Bucks, 8 o'clock East. Milwaukee's 6.5 at home, totals 218. The Bucks are 12 games over 500, 21-9 at home. Meanwhile, Orlando 29-35 themselves, 11-19 on the road. Currently, the Magic are on a 5-game skid, failed to cover in all of those contests. Meanwhile, Orlando's in the bottom 10 in defensive field goal percentage. They just send way too many shooters to the foul line. Orlando's in the bottom 5 in free throws allowed per game. They're facing a Milwaukee squad who's the second best three-point shooting team in the league. Dame Lillard averages 25.5 points a game. Gary Trent Jr. shoots 41% from downtown. Keep an eye on those guys, officially listed as day-to-day, although I'm pretty optimistic we'll see those guys suit up. Now, Milwaukee saw overs in their last 3 straight. Orlando saw overs in 3 out of their last 4 themselves. I like the Bucks -6.5, over 218. Next contest, Bulls Heat, 8 o'clock East. Miami's -4, totals 227. Now, Miami's 4 games under 500, losing record against the point spread. More recently, the Heat dropped 5 out of their last 8. Dead last in the league in blocks per game on defense. And no real surprise here, Miami's also a bottom 10 rebounding team on the defensive end of the court as well. Just maybe a little bit too small. Now they're facing a Bulls team who's in the top 10 in offensive boards themselves, 3rd in 3 balls made. Nikola Vucevic is averaging 19 points a game, double-digit rebounds a night. And Kobe White's averaging over 18.5 points per contest himself. Chicago games went 6-3 to the over in their last 9. Miami 5-4 to the over in their last 9 themselves. I like the Bulls +4, over 227. Next matchup, Lakers-Celtics, 8:30 p.m. East. Boston's -7, totals 227. The Celtics are 45-18, but they do have a losing record against the point spread this year. Meanwhile, the Lakers are 19 games over 500 themselves, 36-25 against the number. Of course, the Red Hot Lakers are on an 8-game winning streak. Covered the point spread in all of those games except for one. LA's currently 8th in points allowed, 6th in defensive boards. And they're taking on a Boston team who failed to cover recently versus Cleveland, Detroit, and Toronto. As good as they've been on offense, they really don't get to the line much. They're in the bottom 3 in free throws made per game. Meanwhile, on the defensive end, the Celtics are in the bottom 5 in defensive turnovers. Now, Celtic games went 60% to the under in their last 10. Lakers 8-2 to the under in their last 10 themselves. I like the Lakers plus 7, under 227. And with that, we're going to jump into our next and final breakdown for the video. Pistons Warriors, 8:30 p.m. East. Golden State's -7, totals 233. Now, both teams are 35-28 on the year, both playing at a high level recently. Having said that, though, the Warriors haven't shot the basketball all that well this year. I know that's surprising when you got a guy like Curry on the team, but Golden State's 25th in field goal percentage, bottom 5 in shooting from the stripe. And listen, for some reason, the Warriors are having issues getting shots off. They're 25th in blocked shots per game on offense. They're facing a Detroit squad who's 10th in defensive blocks, 1st in defensive boards. Of course, as a team, the Pistons got the W in 8 out of their last 10. They covered the point spread in 80% of those games. Now, 5 out of Detroit's last 9 did stay under the line, throwing out that Utah game. Meanwhile, Golden State's 5-4 to the under in their last 9 themselves. I like the Pistons plus 7, under 233. And with that, folks, we're going to jump into our quick pick recap, starting in college basketball. I like High Point -6 over 139.5. Miami Hurricanes +1 over 149.5. We're 9-2 in our last 11 extra daily picks. 78% in our last 18 in that same package. Georgia -5.5 under 150. Missouri -5 over 169. Georgetown +1 under 145. St. Bonaventure +2 over 135.5. Manhattan -2 under 149. Auburn -7 over 178.5. Louisiana Tech -4 under 142. Cincinnati -2 over 141.5. Drake -6 over 134.5. New Mexico State +2.5 under 139. SMU -3 under 155. Wofford +2 under 137. Northeastern +1 over 137.5. Maine -2 over 144. George Mason -5 under 126. Grambling +1 under 134. Weber State -3 over 132.5. Texas -5 over 154.5. Furman +2 over 156. Northern Arizona -3 over 144.5. Houston Cougars -4 under 131. NBA Charlotte Hornets +4.5 under 213. Pelicans +9 under 229.5. Raptors -4.5 over 223. Milwaukee Bucks -6.5 over 218. Bulls +4 over 227. Lakers +7 under 227. Give me the Pistons +7 under 233. And with that, folks, that's going to do it for me. Don't forget to check me out on my premium page. And if you do end up getting a membership here today on my premium site, just a friendly reminder, you're going to get access to that membership every single day for the next 30 days. And as an added bonus, you're also going to get access to all of my cheaper memberships during that time frame, absolutely free. They're going to be included with your membership. That's why I always tell folks that Gold Club package, it's a full access, all-inclusive membership. Gives you access to every single premium selection of mine, every single package, every single day for the next 30 days. But most importantly, folks, got to thank you for joining me right here on the free video. Really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. And with that said, folks, happy Saturday to you. Best of luck to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my premium page.